Meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Anderson.
Here.
Councilman Shelton.
Here.
Mayor Salee.
Present.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Present.
Councilman Williams.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. If we can all rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Shipley, do we have any additions or corrections to our agenda tonight?
No changes.
No changes. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Brings us to the consent agenda. There's one item, item 2, consider awarding bid for transformers, electric department, sponsor Tony Peak. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Move approval. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the item, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Brings us to the old business portion of our meeting. Item 3, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held January the 17th, 2008. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any discussion by the council? Comments from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 4, consider on second and final reading ordinance 071237, closure and abandonment of a portion of the undeveloped right-of-way of Park Street located between 1826 and 1848 Byrne Avenue. Sponsor Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, the undeveloped right-of-way of Park Street is located between Byrne and North Willow Avenue, south of West Jerry Whitson Road. The portion of the right-of-way requested for closure and abandonment extends approximately 174 feet west of Byrne Avenue to an undeveloped and unnamed alley. Proposed closure and abandonment was approved by the Planning Commission, subject to compliance with the provisions of Title 16, Chapter 4 of the Municipal Code, and the Planning Department concurred with this recommendation. We've received no calls or comments since first reading.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve on second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no further comments, all those in favor of the item, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Brings us to the new business portion of our meeting. Item 5, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 080101, rezoning 55 and 85 Reagan Street from CL Local Commercial to CBD Central Business District. Sponsor Mr. James Mills.
Mayor, council members, it's the location of the two properties, 55 and 85 Reagan Street. An aerial view of the two properties. This proposed rezoning was initiated at the request of Andy Reedus, the owner of the property located at 85 Reagan Street. He indicated in his petition that the purpose for the rezoning was for the lesser setback requirements of the Central Business District. The CBD, with limited exception, has no minimum setback requirements. Mr. Reedus has indicated that he intends to develop the property primarily as an office and for business rental suites. The property requested for rezoning and a contiguous property owned by the City of Cookeville located at 55 Reagan Street are the only two properties accessed by Reagan Street not zoned as Central Business District. Reagan Street actually dead ends at the parcel owned by the City of Cookeville. The properties are contiguous with CBD zoning to the north and east and with CL zoning to the south and west. Our future land use plan indicates the area is best suited for commercial purposes. While the CBD does allow a larger percentage of the lot to be occupied by a structure than does the CL, the type and intensity of use allowed in the Central Business District is significantly less than is allowed in the CL. It's perhaps more appropriate on a dead-end street. Due to the location of the subject property, Central Business zoning appears to be appropriate. The contiguous property owned by the city would also be more appropriately zoned as Central Business District. The Planning Commission is recommending in favor of this for the inclusion of not only the property at 85, but at 55 Reagan Street. The Planning Department concurs with this recommendation.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no further comments, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Item 6, consider Resolution 080208, amending future land use plan, the Highlands Business Park, 5th Interchange area, sponsored Mr. James Mills.
Mayor, council members, the comprehensive plan was adopted by the City Council in October of 2000. If circumstances warrant, this plan or specific elements of the plan can and should be amended, especially when significant deviations from the plan are anticipated. This is the portion of the plan that we're considering. The future land use concept plan visually depicts the desired development pattern for the municipal planning region, and it serves as the primary guide for physical development decisions such as zoning. An area adjacent to the southern right-of-way of Interstate 40 from Holiday Road west to the proposed location of a new interstate exit is identified in the future land use concept plan as being best suited for commercial industrial mixed-use development. The area is currently zoned as CI, commercial industrial mixed use. The plan also depicts the extension of Gould Drive to the proposed interchange. The area south of the proposed commercial industrial mixed use area and north of Lee Seminary Road is depicted as being best suited for mixed-density residential development. And this area is currently zoned as RS20 single-family residential. Since the adoption of the comprehensive plan in 2000, significant progress has been made towards the development of a regional business park in the area identified in the plan. The city and county have acquired several hundred acres of property in the area, with a number of the parcels extending to Lee Seminary Road. This map, and it doesn't show up that well, it's prepared by an engineering firm I'm going to talk about in just a second. It depicts the properties that have been purchased by the city and county, and this is one of them that goes all the way to Lee Seminary, and there's another tract over here that goes all the way out to Lee Seminary. Additionally, the city and county have hired the firm of Barge, Wagner, Summer & Cannon to develop plans for the extension of Gould Drive and for the development of the commercial business park along this extension. Preliminary plans developed by Barge Wagner indicate that a significant portion of the property north of Lee Seminary Road, identified in the future land use plan as being best suited for mixed-density residential development, might be necessary for the extension of Gould Drive and for the development of the business park. Should it be determined that portions of this area are to be included in the business park, they would need to be rezoned, and such a rezoning would not currently be in agreement with our future land use concept plan. So let me go back to our current plan. And this is these areas in here. This is what the city and county have purchased, and also over in here. And the latest plans that we've reviewed with Barge Wagner indicate that this extension, it may no longer be Gould Drive, let me point out, but the same name, but it may actually have to come through here. And a lot of that will occur in the area that we're showing as right now as mixed density residential, and again, it would, if that does occur, it will need to be rezoned. An amendment to the future land use concept plan should also be considered to revise the depicted location of the proposed interstate exit. The selected and preferred location of the interchange is east of the location depicted on the plan, approximately where the current Minelet Creek Road interstate overpass is located. So as you can see, where we have it on the plan now is here, and this is the proposed amendment to the plan. This also amends the plan to extend the regional commercial area, commercial industrial mixed-use area, all the way out to Willow. One of the other options that's being discussed is possibly to extend Lee Seminary all the way out to South Willow Avenue. And if any of that occurs, the properties will have to be rezoned. This doesn't mean that the area would be rezoned if this amendment occurs, but if it becomes necessary to, then it would be in compliance with our plan. And since this is such a significant change, a potential change, then our plan should be amended to facilitate that rezoning. A resolution amending the future land use concept plan element of the 1999-2020 comprehensive plan, a resolution to amend it was approved by the Planning Commission, and also included relocating the interchange further to the east. And the planning department recommends for the council's approval of a similar resolution.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council?
So, all the properties that are within what the city and county have purchased are included in this or not?
Yes, and additional properties also.
Okay. So, what's left, the chart we have in here, I can't follow. It's black and white. So,
Okay.
the yellow that's there now is residential?
Yes.
So, would there be a benefit to everything south of the interstate within the urban growth boundary to go ahead and be zoned what the rest of it is?
Well, that was discussed at Planning Commission, and, the Planning Department also looked at it. Most of that area is solid single-family right now. There's several single-family homes in there, and, we didn't think it was appropriate to do that right now. Most of the other areas that we have, there are some scattered homes, but most of that is still agricultural land. Now, there are some, when you extend through here, especially, now let me go back to the way it is now. As you can see, even this is the area I'm going to be pointing to on the other map. That's also mixed-density residential.
Okay, this is current.
This is current. It's our current plan. Now, this area does have a significant amount of development. There's a large mobile home park here, church, and there's a few houses, so that is an area that we would convert. But when we go back into this one, there are several single-family homes, brand-new single-family homes right in here. There are also some brand-new homes right in here, and those are the areas that we've left out. Now, eventually that may happen. I think part of what the reasoning is on this now is that we hope to completely redo our plan this year or next year. In the next couple of years, we'll look at it again, but this would prepare us for any immediate need for the development of the business park. Now, I'm not saying that would change again in the future. It may still be decided that that area needs to stay residential, but we look at it more in the future.
If it were changed, then obviously it could stay residential.
Yes. Now, this does not. Now, that's a very good point, Councilman Shelton. This does not mean the properties are going to be rezoned. It's our revised vision of how we see this area eventually developing. And again, this is a long-range plan. Since we now have preliminary plans for the development of the business park, and since the city and county have purchased a large amount of property out here, it's anticipated that all the properties in the city and county have bought will go into the business park. Big parts of that are residential, shown as residential on our future land use plan. They'll have to be rezoned. And to be rezoned, that's such a big change for our plan, it needs to be amended so that our zoning will follow our plan.
Would you again speak to did you say something about you were coming a little further east with the interchange?
Yes, ma'am.
Explain that just
when we did the plan in 2000, we weren't exactly sure where the interchange was going to go. And let me also point out that the land use plan is a general guide. It's not cut in stone. And if you'll notice even on this, it doesn't show property lines. I mean, it's meant to move up and down. The zoning doesn't have to follow this exact. So, when we may get a rezoning where we're doing, we may have a commercial going into a residential that if you blew that up on the map, on our map, it may not fit right in there, but that's such a small deviation that you don't really need to amend your plan. But when you're talking about hundreds of acres, then that's when you need to look at, hey, we need to update, we need to update our plan if this is the way things are going to turn out. But back on that, since we now have received pretty close to confirmation as where the interchange is going to, or the exit's going to go, and it's going to go right here. And since we know that, and we're in the process of amending our plan, the Planning Commission and the Planning Department both believe that we should reflect that on our plan, the more accurate location.
How much further east is that now?
Several hundred, I think it's about 2,000 feet. No, excuse me, it's about a little over 1,000 feet, I believe is what it is.
Why was it reflected that way in the first place? We always wanted it at Mine Lake Creek.
Well, when we first looked at it, TDOT's plans were to put it right there.
Well, they had
That's what
that,
we
I
went
thought
by.
that was the A and B, and that was the B. We wanted the A. Is that not
I
right?
can't, it's been 10 years ago. And I
But
was-
anyway, it needs to be,
Sure.
it needs to be shown at Minot Creek Road. That's where we
Go
wanted
to,
it.
go to the next slide.
Well, that's
To
what
the
we're doing.
amended one?
Yeah.
Well, this or the amended?
The next one. So there it is.
Yeah, it's moved to.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't, to be honest with you, I don't remember. I'll have to go back and check my notes. It's why we put it out there. There had to have been a good reason.
I'm sure there was.
Once again, all the property owners that are out there, their current use is not going to change.
Right.
If they want to change the use of their property, then they come through the regular process to have a piece of property rezoned. This just gives people, whether currently own property or whether they're thinking about purchasing property out there, gives them an idea in the future of what we anticipate this property to look like, or the areas, how they'll develop in the future, hopefully the park sooner than 10 years, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road. That's why it's a future land use plan.
Any further comments from the council? Open it up to the audience. Any comments from the audience? Any further comments from the council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mills.
Thank you.
Item 7, consider resolution 080209, approval to submit grant application to TDEC for local parks and recreation funds and committing to the match. Sponsor, Mr. Rick Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is a resolution that says that we intend to, or gives us permission to apply for the LPRF grant for the development of expansion of Dogwood Park. And further, it says that we will utilize the purchase price that we've already paid for that park as our cash match, which is allowed by the grant procedures and the grant criteria. So I would ask your approval of this resolution. It is required to be a part of the grant application.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Item 8, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 080102 relative to stream buffer zones. Sponsor, Mr. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, go back one or go to the next one here. No, I got left out. Okay. This ordinance is a requirement of our stormwater permit that we obtained in 2003. It's mandated by EPA and the state. The ordinance that we're proposing is based on a sample that we obtained from EPA. All the Phase 2 cities in the state and the country are required to pass this. It's just not us. We're one of the last with a permit coming up that's done this. We've waited to see what other cities and counties were doing to try to base it on that. We've got to have this in place by the end of the month to be in compliance with our permit. That's when the first 5-year permit expires before the next one stops. What the stream buffer zones do is provide a strip of undeveloped property that filters stormwater runoff before it gets into the streams. These provisions in the ordinance will apply to all lots that are contiguous to a blue line stream on the USGS map that you see here now. I've highlighted the ones that are shown. It's not waters of the state or wet weather conveyances, so you have to be shown on the USGS map for this apply. And it does not apply to properties that are already developed. They would be exempt from it. It also does not apply to properties that have a state or federal permit. And it doesn't apply, the roads can still cross the stream, or bridges, you have paths, or your stormwater management can be there, utilities can cross the stream. It doesn't apply to those. And we do have an appeals process if a developer feels that the riparian zone will not be work in his particular development, or there's other things he could do to achieve the same effect. He can appeal to that to us, and we'll consider whatever he presents and consider granting a variance on it. And I request your approval.
Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council?
So this is a mandatory, we had to do it, number
Yes.
one. And what we've adopted is not something overly restrictive, but certainly meets the needs that it was intended to do. Is that correct?
What we've adopted is 50 feet from the stream bank, measured perpendicularly, and that's based on studies been done. That's about the minimum width that you can get the desired effect.
Okay.
In other cities that have already passed them, it varies anywhere from 50 to 100 feet.
Okay.
And ours just applies to the blue line streams. A lot of other cities included wetlands and ponds and lakes as well, so we're just including the streams.
Very good.
Greg, I just had one question. I know we talked about this at length on Monday, but it says on here, as far as our future use, as far as roads are concerned, it says that you can't cross one of these areas except for one time every 1,000 feet. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Are there any future uses of roadways or things we're thinking about doing in the relatively near future that this would
I don't know of any. That's mainly directed toward developments, but we'll look at each development separate because they're all different. It may be where we can be done where you still get the desired effect.
Okay.
So I mean, that's what we have in there, 1,000 feet, but like I said, we have the variance procedure in there to look at that.
Okay.
Any further comments from the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Item 9, consider approval of a 50% cost share with Putnam County for the additional construction costs associated with site preparation for the Tennessee Rehabilitation Center project. Sponsor, Mr. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, if I could, I'd like to take you back to real quickly, the start of this project, bring you up to date on where we're at tonight in considering this cost share. Back in 2005, officials from the Rehabilitation Center here in Cookeville approached the city and county about building a new facility, in which time the state would lease that facility from the county and city and move their rehabilitation center to that location. They would they would reimburse 70% of the capital cost on that project. And in 2006, the city and county approved an agreement to facilitate this project, at which time the county would facilitate the construction, handle the financing. And then in January, the project was designed by the architect. The project was bid in May of '07, and in the meantime, the state approved the initial lease on this project. It was a 10-year lease, and they sent the paperwork up here to be signed by the county executive. Construction was started in November of 2007. When the construction was started, this is a picture of some of the site preparation. That area right there, kind of right in here, that's about a 10-foot cut in the location out there, and they hit an underground spring. This is what it looks like. That's about 10 foot deep out there in that location. So that's kind of what happened. They hit the spring. The estimated cost to remediate this was not to exceed $303,000. The county executive had not signed that original lease. She sent it back to the state and has asked them to put that extra $300,000 back in a new lease, which the state is considering at this time. In the meantime, Midstate Construction, who's the contractor on this project, has gone ahead and finished the work out there on the site. We know the actual cost of to remediate it is $245,000. And the state is in the process of considering the revised lease with that extra $300,000 in the lease. It's got to be approved down there by two different committees. The first committee approved it in January. It's gone to the second committee. They did not vote on it in January because they've asked the city and county to go ahead and give them an option for a second 10-year lease on it. So that's the reason. They're going to consider that lease then on February 25th of 2008. The county would ask us to consider cost sharing on this remediation cost. Their 50% match of that would be $122,620.99. And once the lease is approved by the state, the county would reimburse us annually as those lease payments come back in from the state. And we don't have any indication from the state that they won't approve this lease. As far as we know, it will be approved. And I don't think the county executive has had any calls from them with any issues regarding it either. And I'd ask you to consider this.
Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council?
An obvious question. Go ahead.
I I just had a quick question. If we vote to approve the additional 50% cost share, and the state decides they don't want the second 10-year lease, and they don't lease it back, we will have committed this money and not received it back, correct? Or we will get it back?
If they don't approve the lease they have down there now with the extra $300,000 in it, then we would not get it back based on this first 10-year lease.
But we would get it back in the, we would or would not get it back in?
We would not, if they don't approve the lease they're considering right now, and we paid the money, we would not get reimbursed, because if they don't approve the lease that we're asking them to consider, that lease now includes the additional $300,000 in it. So if
We get
they,
it all back anyway, just be 75%. That's basically, we get 75% of the cost back through the lease payments. We put in 25, the state pays 75, and basically, we've got a building in the end.
right now, what they have approved does not include that $300,000.
There's no indication that
There's
they're
no
not going to
indication that they will not approve
Right.
it. It's got to be approved by two different committees. The first committee approved it. They sent it on to the second one. The second one said, we don't want to vote on it yet till you give us the option on the second 10-year lease. So
Since,
they held off 1 month.
since the work's been completed, the money's been spent, and we haven't heard back from the state, would it make better sense to vote on it when we're a little more sure about what the state's stance is going to be? Or
We're in it pretty deep right now. I mean,
Well, I think, it's
a
a
lot of
pretty
site work,
secured
yeah.
investment in that we're gonna end up with a building. It's not like we're, just laying it out there. I think we've got something substantial to show for our money.
the second 10 years, it's basically going to just be profit. Other than just the maintenance expense.
okay, I was understanding that no lease has been approved, but the first
The
10
first
years.
lease was approved, yes.
But
Okay.
not
But not
including-
including the 300.
Not including this, no. The
Right.
original lease before the spring was hit, that lease was approved,
So that's kind of our stopgap, but
yes.
the other $245,000 is what we're waiting to hear from currently.
Currently, yes.
Okay.
Like I say, it's been approved by one of the committees down there. They sent it to the second one, and they said, let's wait until we get the option on the second 10-year lease. That way it doesn't have to come back before them.
They're kind of holding our feet to the fire on the second 10-year lease.
Which, we wouldn't have any reason not to lease it to them.
No, but they
No,
they wanted a guarantee of what that lease payment was going to be. And we wanted to tie it to the increase in the consumer price index, and they kind of balked at that. They didn't kind of balk at it, they did balk.
They did, Bob.
Period.
So will that make a difference on whether they approve this new revised first lease?
I understand there are two leases. It's not a revised first lease, is it?
Right, this would be a totally...
This is a totally different lease.
To replace the
To
other.
replace
To
the...
replace the other.
To replace
Right.
the first one they approved. And
Is
like I
there-
said, we don't have any indication at all that they're not willing to do this and approve it.
And they're pretty committed into the project too, so.
Right.
They are,
Yeah.
there's been...
We all are.
There's been at least 5 of these facilities constructed around the state that we're aware of. We'll be the 6th one.
Yeah.
This is the process that all of them have gone through. The other 5 have the second 10-year lease options in them, and they wanted the option in this one too.
Maybe we could put a bottled water facility out there.
That was funny.
Look at that water source out there, Ronnie. Is that something we could tap into?
So,
So Lane, is there any legal ramifications either way for?
No.
Okay.
Basically, if you approve this, you have a $90,000, which is about 75%, $90,000 that are at risk that you might or might not recoup. But if you've already spent the money and you're halfway in, I don't see how you can stop.
Right.
well, I guess the
I mean,
difference is-
the legal issue is there's no problem with doing this. I'll leave the decision-making to the 5 of you.
Any further comments by the council? Comments from the audience? County Executive Blaylock, you have any further comments? Seeing no further comments, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
Thank you.
Item 10, consider approval of expense for the city share of state aerial photo of Putnam County. Sponsor, Mr. Jeff Littrell.
Mayor and City Council, the state of Tennessee approached the city of Cookeville and the Putnam County 911 and Putnam County Property Assessor about doing an aerial photography project for the Putnam County. At that time, the estimated cost was $30,000 to the city and county. We have since received an invoice in the amount of $26,167 for this project. The project's finished. So the city's cost of that would be $8,722. We budgeted $10,000 for our cost of this, and I'd like to ask your approval.
Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the council?
I just have a question. How often do we do this?
Generally, the state will do it every 5 years.
Okay.
That's what they have been doing so far. And the city participated in 2005 with 911. We actually got a Homeland Security grant and had a photography done at that time with topographical contour maps and stuff.
Isn't that
Thank you.
cheaper than they did it for that first time?
Yes.
Was it like $80,000 or something the first
There was.
time they did it?
Prices come down, so.
It's amazing how, in 5 years, how much your city changes till you start looking at the aerials and say, well, there's a building there now, or not. I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
Original photography in 1990 was over $300,000.
Yeah.
So, did this one include the topography or no?
No, just
Okay.
photographs.
How much more would that have been to include the topography, do we know?
I was afraid to ask.
Okay.
We just had the new photography done in 2005, so, you know, some of it's changed, but I don't think it's been significant yet.
Yeah, but the 2005 topography is what we use in order to do the new, what they use in order to do the new flood maps, or no?
No.
Okay.
But our 2005 topography did our whole urban growth map.
That's correct.
We didn't have it before.
Okay.
Any further comments by the council? Seeing none, all those...
You just wanted to say anything.
I think we're all right. All those in favor of item 10 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 11, thank you, Mr. Littrell. Item 11, consider declaring a surplus vehicles and et cetera. Sponsor different department heads. See what, we want to just go with what's in our book here. First thing we've got is, looks like Greg Brown, surplus vehicles. We just want to approve all these collectively.
If you have any questions about any of them, we'll try to answer them, but it'd be nice to just approve them all.
Yeah. Let's just do that. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Quickly through there, I didn't see anything earlier, but do we put this on the egov.com?
Gov deals.
All these have been looked at, and maximum usage has been gotten out of everything, leisure services and everything.
Leisure services, he doesn't even want any of them.
Okay.
I was going to say that you have the largest list.
If it gets to that list, it's pretty bad shape, I bet. Any further comments from the council? Any comments from the department heads? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, thank you. This brings us to our hearing of citizens and/or delegations. We offer their lectern for up to 3 minutes. Bring your ideas forth. Don't see anybody jumping up for that tonight. Oh.
Except our county executive.
But, and then now I'll open the floor to the council. If anybody has any comments they'd like to make.
I've got a couple things. What the money that we recoup back on this surplus, what do we do with that?
Put it in the, well, if it's out of the general fund, it goes back into the general fund. If it's out of the electric department, it goes back to the electric department, et cetera.
Okay, can we, outside of making a motion, which I won't do, but I will if we don't get one soon, earmark part of this for a voting system that we will have in place within 1 month to vote for council meetings. We've talked about this for months, and I think it's time we get one, whether we have to go back to the buttons and washers and red lights or Christmas lights, whatever you want to use, but we need some kind of voting system. It doesn't have to be a $10,000 computerized system, but if we can't do one on computer, then certainly some type of voting system within the next month.
The best of everything we've looked at, what we had worked better than anything, and I thought what we'd do is try to put those little gray boxes in something that looked a little better and just use those again.
Okay.
I'll be glad to tell Gail that in the morning because she's resisted this, using those buttons.
Well, I would prefer, just because my name starts with W, I always end up being the last in a row.
Well, we could reverse vote sometimes.
I'm just
Williams,
kidding.
if you'd like
Do it
to.
random.
Just a simple button would be great.
We don't have,
I was going to say it, I
We
do
don't
it
have
in my
enough.
classroom. I change around so the top kids don't feel bad about being top and the bottom kids don't feel bad about being bottom.
Well, a simple button will suffice, and a light, and
Hey,
Point
Rick,
made. Point made, Councilman Shelton.
send the maintenance guys to see me tomorrow.
yeah. Any further comments from the council?
I just had one comment. I wanted to wish everybody a happy New Year because today is the Chinese New Year. And that's why I wore red. Little diversity.
Very good.
I do think we need to remember our
Chinese New Year.
neighbors in Macon and Lafayette.
Yeah.
Macon, Lafayette, and Hartsville were devastated, and I know that our community has helped some, and maybe if there's other things that we can do appropriately as we've done in the past when the hurricane happened, perhaps we can look about doing that if there's something we can do to help those communities.
And everybody go to the Cane Creek new gymnasium. It's a great facility, and we all got to see Mayor Salee cut the ribbon today.
Very good. Glad to have it
Well,
open.
we played a little ping pong, a little basketball.
Little basketball.
I made it. Nobody called me.
Whoa.
Well, you're welcome to make a donation in order to help participate in the purchase of that facility. The next time we'll allow you to come and shoot basketball.
Scared I beat you.
Any further comments? If not, I will adjourn the meeting.
I'm sorry, Sam. I'm always afraid.
We need to
They're gonna find out where you voted. I mean, before it's over with, they're gonna know it.
In your car.
We can build some little.
We just didn't want